there's something I want you to understand, it's this. Your thumbnail is the most important part of your video, because if you can't get the viewer to click, it doesn't matter how good your video is, they're not going to be watching it. Now, as someone who's helped grow a channel from 0 to 300,000 subscribers, has grown their own channel to over 8,000 subscribers, and uses his free time to help others grow their channels, I've spent a lot of time looking at thumbnails. In fact, I created a whole ebook, which was a breakdown of 50 viral thumbnails that I analyzed. And after spending all this time looking at thumbnails, trying to understand why certain ones make people click, I've started to notice a few patterns as to what works and what doesn't, and I thought I'd share them with you in this video so you can make some better thumbnails yourself and grow your channel. Number 1, creating a curiosity gap. Now, many top YouTubers use a curiosity gap in their thumbnails, and it's the reason why you click. You just don't realize it. Now, the curiosity gap is the space between what the viewers understand from your thumbnail and what they want to know. Your goal as the creator is to put the viewer in that gap when they are looking at one of your thumbnails. Now, the key to creating a good curiosity gap is about finding the perfect balance between giving away enough information so that the viewer understands what your video is about, but withholding the crucial information that can only be found out by clicking and watching your video. But if there's too much on either side, the curiosity gap breaks. If you give away too little information, the viewer isn't intrigued because they don't know what the video is about, and they're most likely confused when they look at your thumbnail. But if you give away too much, then they're also not intrigued because they're not getting any new information by clicking on your video. They can learn everything that they need to know just from looking at your thumbnail. So now let's take a look at this thumbnail by Ali Abdaal, for example, and could you work out what the curiosity gap is? So when I look at it, this is what I see. We know it's a video about the 5 things to avoid to stop wasting your life. It tells us that in the title. And this is something many viewers will resonate with because it's a common problem a lot of them will have, especially with the rise of short form content and doom scrolling. So what he's doing here is he's already building intrigue in the viewer's mind because it's targeting a common problem that people have. And in the thumbnail, we see how he goes from a person that spends too much time on their phone with the image on the left, and this is an image that, as we said, many viewers will resonate with, to a person that is productive with the image on the right, which is where the viewer aspires to be. So this is the information that we know, which is the first part of the curiosity gap. But what is the information that is withheld from us? Well, it's the 5 things to avoid that transformed him from the before to the person after. This is the information that the viewer wants to know most. And how do you find out this information? Well, you have to click and watch the video. Now, analyzing viral thumbnails like this is what I'd recommend you do every single day, because the more you do this, the easier you'll be able to recognize curiosity gaps, and then the better you'll become at creating curiosity gaps in your own thumbnails. So here's a simple process that I want you to turn into a habit that you follow every single day. Create a private playlist on your YouTube account titled Thumbnails, and every day add thumbnails that intrigue you or make you click. Then spend 50 minutes a day breaking down why they intrigued you and what the curiosity gap is. Then take those learnings into your next video. It's so simple and will barely take up any time in your day. But this simple habit, compounded over time, will completely transform how you create thumbnails. So now let's move on to how to create curiosity gaps in your own thumbnails. Now, the thumbnails with the best curiosity gaps follow one of these 6 methods. Moment thumbnails, capturing a glimpse of a moment right before a powerful reaction. Result thumbnails, showing the end result of something and making the viewer ask, how did they do it? Transformation thumbnails, the desire to know the story and process from point A to point B, like that Ali Abdaal thumbnail we just saw. Challenging expectation thumbnails, creating cognitive dissonance in the viewer's mind, urging them to click to resolve this discomfort. Story thumbnails, showing a point of tension that hooks viewers and sets up the story. Novelty thumbnails, the desire to watch something we've never seen before. Now, I get that if you're not an incredible thumbnail designer, just like myself, it can be quite overwhelming looking at these thumbnails because all you're thinking is, well, I don't have the design skills to create anything like that. But one of the easiest and most effective ways to create a curiosity gap is just using an image of yourself and using the right text next to it, just like this thumbnail here. But the most important step with this is that you're using the right text, because what text you use will make or break your thumbnail. So let's go through an example together. Now, let's just say I'm a fitness YouTuber and I wanted to create a video about helping people lose weight by being in a calorie deficit. I would probably title the video something like the smartest way to get abs in 60 days. So let's just use that as an example. So now what we want to do is come up with a phrase phrase that we can add to our thumbnail that intrigues the viewer and makes them want to click and watch. So for this step, we're just going to use ChatGPT. Now what I want you to do is paste this phrase into ChatGPT, and I'll leave a link to it in the description. I'm creating a YouTube video with the title, and then your video title, which in our case is the smartest way to get abs in 60 days. In my thumbnail, I want to add a phrase that creates a curiosity, oh, I missed out an A there, that creates a curiosity gap to make the viewer have to click. Here are the rules. It must be no longer than 4 words. It must use language that relates to fitness, such as cardio, diet, etc. Obviously, you'll align it to what your video is about. It must use 6th grade language. It must be engaging. Give me 20 variations. Let's have a look at what it comes out with. As we can see, it's come up with a few interesting examples. The one that sort of stands out to me is "this workout is weird." Now, obviously, this is going to depend on what your video is about, but this could be a way to take an interesting approach with this video idea for us, which was the smartest way to get abs in 60 days. So if we wanted to use this phrase, all I would do is get a picture of me, preferably with abs, and then get an image of me holding up a whiteboard and just have this text written across that whiteboard. Just keep it as simple as that, and you're already doing better than the majority of people because you're creating that curiosity gap. Number 2. Your thumbnails are too cluttered. According to data, it takes our brains 0.2 seconds to decide whether a thumbnail is worth clicking on, which, as you can agree, is barely any time. Now, if our thumbnails are too cluttered, our brains are overloaded with information, making it harder to process quickly. And if it takes too long to process, the viewer is just going to scroll past. And after analysing hundreds of thumbnails, there are typically 3 reasons why your thumbnail looks too cluttered. Too many elements. Now, the average person can only hold 3 to 5 pieces of information in their short-term memory. And if there's any more, this increases cognitive load, making information harder to process. Which is why, if you're creating thumbnails, I always recommend you follow the 3-element rule. Have 3 elements that grab the viewer's attention and provide context for what the video is about, and that's it. And by having fewer elements, it also means each one carries more weight, making expressions and emotions and curiosity gaps stand out much more powerfully. Too many colours. Our brains can process colour quickly, but still, too many competing colours just creates visual noise and becomes overwhelming, which is why, as a rule of thumb, I always recommend sticking to 4 main colours, and that's it. You should also be using colours that create a strong contrast against each other, just to make each element stand out in your thumbnail more. And a great tool to use to find these contrasting colours is a tool called Canva Colour Wheel, which I love to use and I use all the time because it shows you which colours are complementary, triadic, and is the last one tetradic? Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but I think it's tetradic, which is where 4 colours have high contrast against each other. Too much text. Using too much text is another huge mistake that is costing you clicks. So if you want to add text to your thumbnail, I'd recommend using no more than 6 words. Again, any more and it just becomes too difficult to process quickly. You should also be using language that is simple, so around a 6th grade level is the level to aim for, as we saw in that prompt I used earlier. And you should also be using a font that is clear, simple, and bold. Please stop using those cursive fonts. I absolutely hate them. It just makes it harder to read, which in turn takes longer to process, meaning the viewer is most likely just going to scroll past. And most importantly, you need to be strategic with the phrases that you use. So, as we mentioned earlier, creating a curiosity gap that entices the viewer to click. So if we have a look at these 2 thumbnails, for example, with the top one being by Alex Hormozy, we can see he uses 5 words and it's easy to read. There's a high contrast between the red background and the white text, and the white background with the black text. And it's a phrase that I think a lot of viewers would resonate with. Put your damn phone away. And if we have a look at this old thumbnail by Jesse James West, as we can see, there's just too much text. It takes too long to read. The text is quite small. He's also not created a good curiosity gap because he's given away too much information. Number 3. Creating cognitive dissonance. Now, cognitive dissonance is a feeling of mental discomfort that occurs when a person's beliefs or attitudes or actions conflict with new information. And when this happens, all your mind wants to do is resolve that mental discomfort. Now, cognitive dissonance is used every day in the marketing world, but you just don't realize it. And the prime example is Apple's Shot on iPhone campaign. Now, if you don't know what the Shot on iPhone ad is, put simply, it's basically a bunch of cinematic shots that don't look like they've been shot on an iPhone, but they obviously have been, and the goal is to be promoting the iPhone's camera. And that tagline, shot on iPhone, is immediately creating conflict in the viewer's mind, because normally they associate cinematic videography with high-end, expensive cameras that they can't afford, and they wouldn't expect it from something that they have in their pocket. So your immediate response is, how can a phone produce such incredible videos? This builds tension in your mind as you don't know this information. The only way to resolve this tension is by finding out more. So what do? You visit Apple's websites, you read up on the camera specs, and you may even buy the iPhone to try it out for yourself. Well, congratulations, you just fell into Apple's genius marketing trap. And that all came because they created cognitive dissonance in your mind. So how are YouTubers creating cognitive dissonance? Well, we can have a look at this thumbnail by Mark Tilbury. Now, what's the typical advice you give to someone in their 20s? It's normally something along the lines of, you have so much time ahead of you. Mark Tilbury knows this, so he creates cognitive dissonance in the viewer's mind by saying, you have no time left. And suddenly the viewer is shocked because their prior knowledge on advice for 20-year-olds has been challenged. And how do you resolve this mental discomfort? Well, you got to click on the video and find out why. It's so simple, but it's so effective. Now, if we wanted to come up with a phrase that we could use in our thumbnails to create cognitive dissonance, we could use the exact same prompt we used earlier, but just change out curiosity gap for cognitive dissonance. So let's see what it comes out with. So as we can see, some of them are quite similar, but some of them also create a lot more mental discomfort, obviously depending on what the video is about. Now, I'm a big fan of this one here. No cardio, more abs. I don't like the phrasing of that, so what I would change it to is probably something along the lines of, don't do cardio, or you don't need cardio. So by creating a thumbnail with that text on the front, it creates cognitive dissonance because viewers are used to people saying that to lose weight, you have to do cardio, when in reality, you don't have to do cardio. All you have to do is be in a calorie deficit, so it aligns well with what our video is about. Now, if you want more personalized help on how to improve your thumbnails and titles, I do have a product called Roast My Channel, which you can check out in the link in the description, where basically you submit a link to your channel, and within 48 hours, I will send back a 15-minute personalized video basically breaking down where I think you can improve your thumbnails and titles. And I'll also have a look at your most recent video, and I'll give you advice on how to improve the hook, what editing techniques I think you could employ to make the videos more engaging. And I'll also give you 5 video ideas that I think would work well for your channel based on my research and my knowledge. So if you want to learn more about that, there'll be a link in the description. So if you want to learn how to improve other parts of your YouTube channel, I'd recommend checking out this video here, where I basically break down how to engage viewers in every aspect of your video.